According to the World Tourism Organization, sustainable tourism is
tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and the host communities.
Examples: controlled tourism in Bunda, a solar-powered resort in Fiji, a community-run backpacker in South Africa,
conservation volunteering in Belize, a sustainable tour operator, Kong Foundation in Switzerland.
Positive and negative impacts of sustainable tourism. Positive impacts to a destination include job creation, cultural heritage preservation and interpretation, wildlife preservation, landscape restoration, and more.
Negative impacts to a destination include economic leakage, damage to the natural environment, and overcrowding, to name a few.
The global goals. The Sustainable Development (SDGs) or Global Goals are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all.
Eco or green tourism. What is ecotourism? Ecotourism is a travel of natural interest without developing the environment and cultivating the local. How can we develop ecotourism? Successful ecotourism requires maximizing its environmental and economic benefits while minimizing ecological damage and disruption of local communities.
Making the most of ecotourism. Ensure sustainability. Limit on the number of tourists allowed in an area can help maintain the integrity and vitality. Include local residents, involving local people as consultants or directors of community-based ecotourism projects can help ensure community support.
Operators should seek assistance from conservation groups and non-governmental organizations.
What is soft tourism? The concept of soft tourism encompasses environmental and social compatibility, optimum wealth creations, and a new culture of travel.
In this PowerPoint, we are going to explain what is community tourism, explain why it is a form of responsible tourism, give some example of community tourism.
I am Saadet. Communication-based tourism is tourism in which local residents invite tourism to visit their communication with their provision of rights accommodation.
Community tourism brings money to the locals, so it makes better places for people to live in and better places for people to visit. It also promotes environmental protection, cultural conservation, social responsibility, and the enhancement of livelihoods.
Agricultural tourism. Agritourism or agrotourism involves any agriculturally based operation or activity that brings visitors to a farm or ranch. Agritourism helps U.S. farmers and ranchers generate revenue from recreational or educational activities such as tours of a working farm or pick your own fruits and vegetables programs.
We're gonna talk about conventional or classic tourism and list some pros and some cons about it. Let's start with the introduction.
Classic tourism. Tourism began in Western Europe in the 17th century. It is the act and process of spending time away from home to relax while making use of the commercial provision of services.
The pros are: first, it is the most popular form of tourism. Second, with tourism we get to know other cultures. Third, growth and boost in economic activities. Fourth, infrastructure development. Fifth, country's improved brand image. Sixth, it brings money to the country.
The cons are: first, some tourists don't respect the place they are visiting. Second, money can end up being spent only on tourism. Third, tourism-oriented countries have drastic seasonal fluctuations. Fourth, bigger companies get more promoted than smaller local businesses. Fifth, the area may become dependent on tourists' money.
Sixth, tourism often causes environmental damage to local infrastructure and the flora and fauna.
Tourism is linked to agricultural activities that are largely responsible for the creation, development, and maintenance of those collective assets that are the cultural landscape, environmental biodiversity factors that give an identity to entire areas of the country, encourage conservation and care of natural resources such as the rivers, forests, mountains, as well as local fauna and flora, birds, fish, and almost extinct animals.
Examples: educational farms, birdwatching, nature parks and reserves, trekking, agriturismo, food and wine tasting.
SDG plays a key role in the evaluation of UN system-wide implementation of 2030 agenda and on advocacy and outreach activities relating to the SDGs. In order to make the 2030 agenda a reality, broad ownership of the SDGs must translate into a strong commitment by all stakeholders to implement the global goals.
Why is it so important? The 2030 Agenda aims to improve the three areas of sustainable development: economic, social and environmental. In the other words, the economic well being of people, attention to people's health and care for the planet.
The 2030 Agenda therefore identifies tourism, which currently occupies 1 in 11 jobs worldwide, as a primary incentive for inclusive economic growth and targeting local communities. Tourism can also accelerate the transition to sustainability by adopting sustainable patterns of consumption and production. The 8th, the 12th, and the 14th goal of the SDGs are connected with tourism.
Sustainable development. The problems of touristical development. The pollution of air, water, visual distress through the aesthetic of construction sites. The degrading of the views through the touristical unregulated circulation. The degrading of the monuments. Overcrowding, new constructions and infrastructure. The vandalism over the touristical and informatical points, roadsides, mountain roads. The destruction of the natural habitats, abusive collection, fishing, hunting. SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goals. The 2030 Agenda for Durable Development, adopted by all the member states of the United Nations in 2015, offers a common plan for peace and prosperity for humans and the planet, now and in the future.
17 goals of durable development, which improve the health and education, are bringing back the inequality and stimulate the economic increase, approaching the climate change, working for the conservation of the oceans and forests. Romania fully supports the idea that the 2030 Agenda has to be implemented by the local institutions, directly answering the needs of the community. The needs, interests, and worries of these needs to be solved through defining some strategy of local development and national. Italy's strategic goal to ensure the sustainable management of natural resources, including providing biologically diverse and dynamic seas, and preventing impacts on maritime and coastal environment.
Thank you.